In our series this week, we are going to shift and pick up the topic of heaven. The last few weeks, we've talked about the afterlife generally and why we should think about it. We've talked about death and dying, talked about judgment. So we now turn to the question of heaven. And the first question when heaven comes up, always the first question is, will my dog be in heaven? I jest a little bit. Not entirely. That question is a good sort of backdrop for the bigger question of what is heaven like? Is it going to be this, ethereal, mystic, vaporous, never land? It's here, it's there, it's nowhere. It's a state of mind. We're sitting on clouds playing a harp, but we're wispy, angelic creatures. Or is it going to be something else, something more grounded? So I think we really have a lot of problems here because the word heaven has taken on a lot of cultural connotations, and some of it is because there's just problems with the biblical terms, and some of it is just because there's just a lot of really crazy thinking. So the first thing to understand when we actually dig into the Bible is that heaven is not our eternal home, right? So in the Bible, what we get is sort of we tend to think of it's heaven or hell, and in the Bible, what we really get is heaven or the new earth as being the two big components of what comes next. So what happens is we get this new earth described as being a recreated land that is free from the curses of sin and all the devastation that brings. So I think one of the reasons that people think of heaven as the eternal resting place as opposed to the new earth is because we have this time that Jesus has gone to heaven and that there is this place that we go to between our death and the resurrection that we will undergo. So Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 15 about the resurrection of Jesus being the first fruits of what is to come, that Jesus has defeated death. He does that for us, and that just as he rose, we will rise with a new body, and that this new body for Jesus and the holding place for others before they get their new body is sometimes referred to as paradise, sometimes referred to as heaven. I talked about it as an intermediate state. There's some confusion there. But heaven has become sort of a catch-all for everything after we die. And that's not really the way the Bible uses it. So, what is heaven like? Well, the biblical authors use a lot of language to describe heaven that would suggest it's very much like this world. Isaiah will talk about heaven being a banquet with the best foods and the best wines, and there will be a sense that there are animals in heaven. We see in the book of Revelation that there are animals in heaven, but that they're not. It's not necessarily our pets. He's talking about the fact that the wolf and the lamb will lie down and feed together. The lion will eat straw like an ox, and there will be no harm happening on God's holy mountain. Now, to be clear, I think this is very symbolic language. I don't think Isaiah or John are giving us, sort of GoPro images of what heaven is going to be like. But there is a part in which, in describing heaven, what we get is language that talks about this world free from sin, a world that works. The biblical authors will then use language about heaven that is very much not like this world. So they'll say, in heaven we will not be married. Some of the aspects of marriage, intimacy leading to procreation, will not be a part of what comes. And so we will, in that sense, be like the angels in heaven. And in the book of Revelation, we get a little bit of that same kind of language. There will be no sun or no moon or no stars because the glory of God will light up everything, and there will be no shadows. So, look, is your pet in heaven? Well, I'm going to answer this in two ways. I don't think our specific pets will be in heaven in the sense that they don't have a soul. But do I think there will be animals? Yes. And then I'll also give the answer, a more pastoral answer perhaps than a theologically more precise answer. Billy Graham was asked this question. Will my dog, a little girl asked him, will my dog be in heaven? And what he said, and I just thought it was just brilliant, he said, everything you need for heaven to be heaven will be there. Now, perhaps that's the answer that you give to a little girl who's just lost her dog. But look, we're not going to get all the answers that we want about heaven, but I want to encourage you that heaven, a new earth recreated, will be an amazing place. And our hope ought to be drawn towards it. Have a good day.